time I roll through LA, Hollywood, San Diego, Oceanside, I get nothing but love from the people. I tell you this to tell you Cali like a second home to me. I always have.
Welcome, gentlemen, to the inaugural episode of The Monkman, Marl Kalone. I am your host, The Monkman. And listen, it is so cool to finally been here. I've been debating doing a show like this for a couple of years. I've had so many discussion points that I wanted to do, and I said, you know what? Finally, I said, you know what? Screw it. It's time to do this. The name, The Monkman, Marl Kalone, some of you are probably wondering what the hell that means. It's simply for number 32, the best power forward that ever played basketball, Karl Malone from my home state of Utah. So shout out to Karl Malone. And so anyway, that's where that came from. But let's get right into the topic of today and what finally sent me over the edge to do this show and bring another voice to you guys in the MGTOW movement. We're going to be talking today about this monumental ruling from a federal judge in Texas. He has ruled that the male-only draft violates the Constitution. There's two schools of thought on this, gentlemen. Two schools of thought. The first is where I fall in line. That this is a monumental win for men across the United States. And there's multiple reasons that I'm going to say that. First being that we finally are going to see the basis of equality implemented in some form of the government towards men and women. Let me repeat that. We are finally going to see the basis. Now I say basis because this is only the first step. We're finally going to see the basis of equality from the government towards men and women. This has been a long time coming. It's something that should have happened decades ago. Women and feminazis have been claiming and very vocal in the media that they've been underserved, that they don't have equal rights and protections, that there's a wage gap, on and on and on and blah, blah, blah. Many of those things were addressed some time ago and have been more than corrected, more than substantially corrected. And the ship has been righted on those, and women are now the oppressors on many of these topics. This decision makes an equal playing field for men and women. The requirement to register at 18 years old for men has always, in my mind, since I've been 16 years old, been absolutely unfair and a major injustice towards men. It has signaled to me that the government and society deems males to be the disposable sex when it comes to war front and dying on the battlefield. That, on this decision, has now been changed. There's going to be two ways that this is going to play out, gentlemen. It's either going to be that men and women, for the first time in our history, are going to be required to register, or the draft is simply going to go away. Now, let me give you a little bit of discussion from this judge, a little bit of discussion from the coalition that brought this lawsuit, and we'll dive into this topic a little bit deeper here. The judge's name is Gray Miller, Senior Judge Gray Miller of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas. Now he says in his decision here, if there was ever a time to discuss the place of women in the armed services, that time has passed, citing an earlier Supreme Court decision. Now, that earlier Supreme Court decision runs all the way back to the 1980s, requiring only men to register for the draft. At that time, it was not deemed unconstitutional. And that is because men were the only ones eligible to serve in combat, as the court reasoned. So it made no sense to require women to register. Well, of course, we all know that things have changed since then. And in 2013, the Department of Defense lifted the ban on women in combat. And in 2015, it lifted all gender-based restrictions, right? So, based on that decision, the case was brought by the National Coalition for Men. This is an advocacy group. They're raising awareness for discrimination against men. Here's what they had to say about it. Forcing only males to register is an aspect of social, institutionalized male disposability. Let me read that for you again. Forcing only males to register is an aspect of socially institutionalized male disposability. In short, that's basically what I've been saying and thinking since I was 16 years old. We're required to put our lives online when we're 18 years old as men for this country and for the benefit of women. And to me, that has shown that the government, society, and women viewed us as the frontline, disposable sex. Women have never fought since then to say, you know what? Men shouldn't be required to do that. When they go to court, they never fight for equality. They get their child support. They get their alimony. They go and get full custody of the kids. And they always have excuses as to why that should happen. And yet, they've been absolutely silent on this topic as they've been on many other topics. This is just one of the hundreds of topics they've been silent on. Here's the thing. Men can look at this as a major victory, and that's the way that I look at it. The second school of thought is this. The feminists and the women who never want to admit that men have been victorious on something in regards to equality related when it comes to rights for men and treatment, fair treatment, they're not going to admit this is a loss. The way the feminists are going to look at it and the way they're going to portray it is that this is a major victory for them. You know what, gentlemen? That's fine. Let them look at this as a victory. I say we can look at it as a victory as well. And in fact, if the draft goes away, then we can look at it as a monumental victory for the rights of men. That's the way that I look at it. And this should have been done a long time ago. A long time ago. You know, some of the fear-mongering that's going on right now with the government when they were fighting this new case, and I'm going to read this to you. The government argued that requiring women to register for the draft might make them less likely to enlist by increasing the perception that women will be forced to serve in combat roles. So the fuck what? Men have been subject to this for decades. The minute you turn 18 years old, in fact, I got my registration card before I was 18 years old, you as a man were required to register and thereby be subject to disposability from the U.S. government. And now the government is arguing that women may be less likely to enlist because they may be forced to serve in combat roles. Welcome to the world men have been living in for decades. How does that equality feel now, women? You like that? It is more than past time that they get a taste of the responsibilities that go along with equality. Period. And this is one small but significant step in that direction. So men, the only way I can look at this is an absolute victory in monumental proportions on this particular topic and issue. We have a long ways to go on a hell of a lot of other things, but this is one step in the right direction. Now, this may not be the end of this particular topic because, as the way I understand it, there's a possibility the government could appeal this. So we don't have an end game on it yet, but I think likely, even if they are to appeal this, that they will lose on the appeal. Because this is gender-based discrimination, and either way you look at it, it's gender-based discrimination. That's how the men will say it, and that's how the feminists will say it. So this has to go away. Anyway, let me know what you think of this. I think this major development is absolutely wonderful. Maybe there's other men out there that don't. Don't let your masculinity take charge of your brain and the thought process and be macho that, oh yeah, women can't serve, alongside men on the front lines. There's women all over the world that have proved they can fight in war zones better than some of the men. And there's been examples of that from the people in Iraq, Pakistan, etc., etc. You know what I say? If the women want to be on the front lines, let them do it. Let them do it. Welcome to equality. Welcome to responsibility, women. You want that? Here it is. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm going to try to do 3 to 4 videos a week. So subscribe to the channel. We're going to be talking about all kinds of different topics of discussion. One thing that will be unique about my show is that we are going to go in depth into seldom asked questions and some of the things that men face, and some of us may face these things very isolated, and they can be topics that are very hard to discuss, especially for men. And I have a couple of topics that are close to my heart that we will be discussing in the future that are seldom discussed by the MGTOW and the men's rights movements. So, anyway, we'll be getting into that. Subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. The more videos I do, the better I'll get, and I won't be talking so long. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this first video, and we will see you on the next Monkman show.
But they won't recognize her. This is classic like Phantom of the Opera. That's right. All my mind says fucking you coppers. You may try, but no, you can't stop.